healthy churches, healthy organizations. It's about relationships. That's a huge issue. Hi, I'm Pastor Tom, and welcome here for our, I guess we could call this a podcast. We call it Conversations for the Curious. I'm here with Cindy, and we in the church here, as we move into the season of Advent, are looking at the text of Thessalonians. The town's still there, Thessalonica, I would call it, back in Greece, big town. Got a major airport, but anyway, it's grown, and Paul wrote to this church there 2,000 years ago, and he had something to say. But what he had to say was he's feeling very good about what's going on there. So let me just read you the first couple verses here from 1 Thessalonians chapter 3, verses 9 and 10. For what thanksgiving can we return God for you, for all the joy we feel for your sake before our God, as we pray most earnestly night and day, which we may see you face to face and supply what is lacking in your faith. I mean, I'm seeing the first thing here with a healthy, strong congregation is gratitude. Now, he's not in there.
Yeah.
He's I don't even know where he's at writing this letter to him, but he feels good about these people.
Yeah, he seems to be just super happy. I mean, just filled with joy and thanksgiving when he thinks about them. Boy, they're doing great.
Yeah, but you said earlier before we turned on the camera, you talked about, well, what is lacking in your faith, and that you had this idea that Paul was looking at, okay, there's still more going on there, and that he could come and see these people.
But it doesn't sound like he's coming, with a, I've got to straighten you out attitude. It's
right,
like,
there are, you see this with the Church of Galatia,
yes.
but it's not here. I mean,
No.
and we talk about, well, okay, if all churches are messed up to some extent, we're talking about healthy churches, but there's no perfect church, why not focus on the negative? He's not doing that.
No, he's going to go and love them. And, if he sees any place he can help, that's what he wants to do. Oh, is there something, you need that you don't have? Let me see if I can help. This is how we want to look at the people next to us in the pews. How are you?
It's
but
positive.
not just how you doing, but how are you? And what's going on?
Right, and we talk about, where do you get that from? Where is that healthiness? And that I think that there's always the negative in every church. There's always something. And I think that you said that focusing on the positive rather than the negative. There's always something to criticize.
There is indeed, for me.
Mm-hmm.
And the way my brain works, I'm going to analyze everything. Well, that's not a good trait with people. It really isn't for relationships. It's, because I have to stop sometimes and tell myself, no, look for the good. Or remind myself, this person is made in the image of my God. And so we're supposed to connect.
Well, right, whatever's good, whatever's true, whatever's beautiful, whatever's trustworthy, is being excellent and noteworthy, that's Philippians. Think about such things. I mean, and one of the greatest things that anyone can do, whether you're a family or you're a church, is gratitude. You're like hunting for the good. There are people, though, at the same time, and we maybe find ourselves in that camp, we're waiting to be offended. We're waiting for people to mess up.
Oh, dear.
We're waiting for things not to be right, so we can be the first ones to go blah, blah, blah on them. We want to just look at this in the bigger picture here. That there are texts, I mean, even 1 Corinthians, the Corinthian church, Paul is saying, hey, well, he does both. Mm-hmm. He says, I'm seeing good things, and I'm happy. Mm-hmm. I'm seeing some things that you guys are really messed up. Mm-hmm. Not as bad as Galatia. Yeah. And here it's more of, that he's so happy for what's going on with these people. I've always wanted to know, what's the difference between, looking at the good and then getting into denial? You don't see what you don't want to see, and then boom, you get problems.
Well, if I'm looking inside my life, I need to see what's wrong. That's my job, to figure out where I'm failing. But when I look at you, that's not my job.
Right.
My job as a human being and a, just a part of the body, is to encourage. So if we encourage the good, especially the love, encourage the relationship, the weaknesses are going to, go away, dissipate.
And I think, you make a good point there. I mean, people talk about your emotional bank account in your relationships, that you go broke with others, well, one, by being a person of non-integrity, but you can go emotionally broke with somebody by continuing to criticize them.
Yeah.
And then they don't want to listen to you, or that it causes friction. They want to stay away from you. They're on edge. We see joy here, who's feeling the joy. There's another part of this, and we call it, I think you would know the word here, constructive criticism in English, where you make some constructive comments. We live in a world where, I don't know where you might be in the world, but in America, certainly you see so many of these companies give us feedback, even to the place where I think it gets on our nerves. On email, or whether it's hold on to the call after we're done so you can give us feedback.
Yeah, I think though that's not, face-to-face, person-to-person. That's corporation. How are we doing kind of thing. I think that there are ways to accomplish the constructive criticism without saying you. Oh, this is great. All my spam calls. I think we need to avoid the word you. You.
Yeah, see, I think it's one of the least words that my least favorite word in the English language. It sounds weird, Portuguese, they say eu, which means I, but you, it's just like, and people who get critical, I even call it bringing out the yous. Yeah, and people talk about, how do you deal with complaints against other people? You don't use you, but you use I statements. This is the way I feel. So that's important. I think, there can be room for constructive criticism. But, it's like in the church, okay? This is my vision of it. It's like, okay, we're ready to start a new year. It's November now. And for the next year, you hand out criticism cards. And you get 2 of those babies. And you say to everybody who gets one in the church, use them against whoever or whatever, but use them wisely. But then, of course, everybody can say, I'm using my criticism card from her. I'm using mine for her. And then, boom, boom, boom. That could be very destructive. But you use them strategically according to what really matters.
Is this criticism for how things are going in the church? Yeah. Or individual, this guy doesn't do so well?
Well, I think it's how it's going to church. Okay, I'll get risky here with you, right? One of the things, the pet peeves, all right? And you could have been guilty of this, so I hope you'll take it well, Cindy.
Okay.
I don't like it when people practice here and then they leave a Starbucks cup.
Oh, I don't.
And they walk away, Or when I got another one, is when people take something and they don't put it back. I still remember years ago, she's in music ministry, okay? Somebody years ago took somebody's guitar cord and put it somewhere, and then they walked away. Or we've had people go over and turn the thermostat off because it was too warm. And then Sunday comes along and we're going, why is it so cold? We do things, and now I'm saying that and I'm getting self-conviction thinking, well, where do you do that, Tom? But you say, hey, can you not leave your cups out, or you say, who am I to criticize? I won't say anything.
Well, it's a little easier on everybody if we say, let's make sure we clean up and take all of our cups. Making it let's us, we.
Right.
There have been things left, and there's nobody to pick them up, so let's make sure we pick up ours. Right,
and people will use the we. I would say that the sensitive issue here right now, when we're dealing with communities, and this is across the board, I think, of who we are as human beings, so it can apply to any organization. The sensitive issue is we want righteousness, And when someone points out something in our life, I like to use the word "wrongtious." It is no word. We don't like that. It's very sensitive.
Yeah.
But at the same time, now this is where I want to
Yeah.
throw it in. Jesus Christ is our righteousness. Jesus Christ is our righteousness. And maybe, Cindy, you've come to places in your life, I know I have, reluctantly at times, where, hey, if I'm doing something that's destructive towards a group, I want to hear about it because I want to stop it.
I don't want to hear about it. When I'm criticized, I always hurt. And that's not a healthy reaction, but that's what happens. And so I could react in a negative way. Since I'm that way, that I expect other people to be that way, and that's why I try very, very hard not to make a very direct criticism. Talk about, this is, what happened, and this is how we do things, but trying not to say, but what you did was wrong.
Yeah.
I try never to say that, and I don't know that that's good. That's just where I am to protect myself and other people. Maybe that's shouldn't be my highest priority.
Would you say that you're a people pleaser?
Uh-huh. Yeah, less so than I used to
think
be.
so.
I'm in an organization that teaches us to be responsible for ourselves and not for others, and that's a big help.
Not wanting to make other people happy.
Yeah. But I
Right.
think I absolutely don't want to hurt another person.
Yeah, and I think that's a normal
And
response rather than say.
women's feelings often get hurt more easily than men's.
I don't know, what do you think?
And we hold it,
know-
and it hurts for a while where the men I know can say whatever they have to say, and then they're done, and they can be happy again. We carry that with us. We've been
Yeah.
criticized, and that's who you think I am.
Well, I think that there are men who will take it personally
Sure.
and hold on to it. In verse 12, Paul writes about, okay, this is the way I feel about you, full of gratitude. And I want to just go back before I read this, that gratitude is going to make a healthy community.
Yeah.
And I would like to get to speaking the truth in love, and maybe we can get at this here. But in verse 12, he says, may the Lord make you increase and abound in love for one another and for all as we do for you. That Christianity, we have a God who loves us, and that love overflows into our relationships.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes in those relationships, we do speak the truth in love. And sometimes, we need to hear it for what we love. The problem in churches, if you're a pastor, you've got maybe hundreds of people, and a lot of people have their opinion about what you should do and what you shouldn't be doing.
Everybody does, I'm sure.
And, people have criticized, well, I say criticized, I guess they have, the whole thing of be all things to all people, which comes from Paul, in order that I might win some, he says, that's going to drive you crazy. You can't please everybody.
No?
So, and then how do we, taking love, I'm trying to understand what love is. I finally got smart and looked at 1 Corinthians 13 and said, you got a whole definition here, but I've always taken the other passages that love builds up people. It doesn't tear them down, but there are times when you need to say, no, that's inappropriate. Your attitude around here towards other people does not build up others, and I've heard of even companies, whether even Christian or not, they get someone in there that tears other people down. They say, hey, no, you will not work here, or this is your last day. We do not talk to people like that. Love builds up others. And love, the supply of love, comes from God.
But when dealing with someone who is messing up, not getting it, it would be better to deal with that person where you build him up as well as the people around him.
Well,
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
say, our greatest gift of life is working on ourselves. And not just working on ourselves by ourselves, but in the Christian context, we work on ourselves with God. And that means that we do get in the mirror and we evaluate what God already knows, or let God evaluate us through his scriptures. And then we go back to his place of love, which his place of love is in Jesus Christ, where we're reminded again and again, there's a reason why Christ went to that cross. That everyone is messed up. Everybody needs grace. And we're reminded again through the righteous life of Christ, which we don't talk about much in terms of the gospel, which is the love of God for us, that our righteousness is not going to be in our performance, getting everything perfect. It's going to be in Jesus Christ, who is our righteousness. He makes us okay. So going to that well, if you want to use the cliche, is where we get power. Power for our lives, and then as we are empowered, for our relationships with other people.
Yeah, I think for sure that he gives us the ability, if that's the right word, to love the people around us.
Yeah.
He just gives us, he tells us over and over to love one another. But he also tells us that we get everything we need for a life of godliness from him.
Yes. Right, and working on ourselves, the best people to manage our life is ourselves. But I'm learning now just a little bit, how does community build us up? How does feedback, whether it's positive here, going back to what Thanksgiving can we return to God for you, all the joy we feel for the sake of our Lord Jesus Christ. There's the positive, I'm so happy for this church, people got their act together. It's not just getting your act together, but it's joy. You hear emotions here. And how do we get from that to say, hey, you know what? We need to talk about some things.
This makes me think that our entire culture is too insular. We're too, my life, my life, my life. We don't live together with our grandparents and our aunts and uncles and our kids and our grandkids all in one house, which used to happen a lot. And people used to depend upon one another, to take care of the kids, to do the work out in the fields, there was a lot of interaction, a lot of relationship. And we don't have that. So when I have a need, am I going to just turn to somebody in the pew and say, I'm having trouble with something, can you help me, or do you know anyone who can help me? That builds relationship, to ask for help. And we are a society that doesn't want to do that, because to be asked for help is real. It's a real connection, and it's an honor to the person you're asking, whether they can help in that way or not.
Right. Well, we have the health issues not health, that we are meant for relationships. We were created for relationships. Our capacity to get outside of ourselves and connect with others is what God would put us on this earth to do. I'm saying to people who come to this church, hey, you bring a smile in this place, and I love that smile, because you know what? The people here need that smile. And if that's the help, there it is. I don't know, if your Subaru needs oil change, or I don't know, whatever, that's one thing, but our relationships with each other, people that show gratitude to each other, who love each other. But Cindy, from your perspective, if you say this is a weakness of mine, say it's a weakness. We're into honesty here.
Okay.
What about when Paul says speaking the truth in love? So he talks about the truth and he talks about love. Can you say something about that? Let me just go so we don't get too far. The Lord make you increase and abound in love for one another and for all as we do for you.
Well, I think it's a real complicated and interesting issue, speaking the truth in love, because, well, first of all, let me say, when there's love, there are a lot of positive things that can be said and should be said. that we don't necessarily say. You know, like the husband who says, well, I told you once I loved you. If it changes, I'll let you know. You know?
I never heard that one. I've heard about people saying they love another person once.
Yeah. Anyway, so speaking the truth in love should be lots of positive things, lots and lots of positive things, all these great things that I think about you. But
well, that's the truth
also,
and love at positive. Now,
right,
but
that should exist, and I don't think we do that as much as we could.
Right.
We should think about it. And then, if you have that relationship, and you say, but you know, that shirt you wore the other day, it was really off. I wouldn't do that again. You know, you could say something negative if you already are saying lots of positive things.
Right. Again, this is the emotional bank account
It's
kind of language.
Yeah, if you're in a real relationship.
Okay, let me throw a scenario at it. You might get mad and say, shut the camera off, I don't want to talk. But no, okay, no.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're a piano player here,
Yes.
okay? And you have a certain skill. If someone came into this community that you never met before and they came up to you after a service and said, you know, I got some suggestions that I think would really move your skill up to a new level, what would that be like for you?
Well, it's interesting because it could go either way. If they said it, the way you just said it was pretty positive. You know, it was like, this is
Not that you're lousy, you stink, you shouldn't even be on that thing.
Right. It's somebody who hopefully is an accomplished musician, and they actually have something to share. So there's some positive in it.
You wouldn't know that.
Yeah, but I would feel criticized, you know, I would feel like, oh, okay. So, yeah, I'd have trouble both ways. I mean.
Right. Now, I say that to you,
Yeah.
now I'm thinking to myself, okay, somebody comes in here, I don't know them, I preach a sermon, and they say, psh, psh. You know, there's a guy who's doing that around here for a while, it was always something negative. Oh, you missed that, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you know. I guess that you can, the issue of life is that you can be free from that with the power and the pool of the love of God. Maybe not. Maybe our whole lives we can struggle with criticism. Other people just say, I'm dying for feedback. Let me know where I can do a better job.
Yeah.
I want to improve. I want to be my absolute best.
Yeah, having the problem, receiving criticism, is a real problem. It's not healthy. You know, I wish that I could accept criticism and have it not be a personal slight. I don't think it's meant to be that way. We're not meant to be that way.
Right.
We're meant to
So,
be.
like I had this idea, we give a couple criticism cards in a group. They could like this church. Okay, take a couple of those cards and give them to Cindy and say, I'm going to, God, for your sake, let go of 2 negative criticisms, and I'm not going to let it bother you. Could you bother me? Could you do that?
Could I do, not,
If you were intentional and said,
Yeah.
okay, God, for your sake, I will this year take 2 criticisms and I will let them go
Yes.
and not let them bother me.
yes.
You could do it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it would depend how much it would be. If someone came up to you, something that you felt passionate,
Yeah.
well, like your dog, you love Buddy. Well, you don't take care of Buddy right. You should be doing this or that. It's like, I'm going to let that go. I love my dog.
That will take a lot of prayer, because I will need God's help to do that.
So on your card it would
Yes.
say, I'm going to let it go, and then it would say prayer down here with
Yeah.
little asterisks.
Well, you know what? I even have something called, what is it called, a prayer box? Anyway, that might be the kind of thing I need to put in that box, because that's a physical
Right.
action that helps, as well as saying, I'm letting it go. I'm going to let it go, I'm putting it there, I'm, letting go to God,
Sorry.
everything I can do.
Well, we want to go back to verse 12, because what we're really talking about is love, and it might seem a little weird, because we're talking about criticism and love, the negative and the positive, and people say, oh, here's a criticism right away. I could see someone coming in right now and say, hey, look at 9 and 10. What's the matter with you guys? He's full of thanksgiving, full of gratitude, full of joy, full of his feelings. You don't always like feelings, but hey, there it is. That's just what's a non-sarcastic spoken. We don't, with feelings. This is all positive, positive, positive. Why, building up with others is all meant to be positive, positive. And I'm going to go back and say, okay, I think it is. It is meant to be positive, primarily. Gratitude and building up. That's why Paul starts these letters this way. And that's where love is. So I just want to say to anyone, okay, that's out there, what you need in your life, that's not a bad statement. I'm going to reframe it. Where we can get this love for healthy relationships is in the love that God gives us in Jesus Christ. We can't control others, but God says, you and me, we'll work together. I'm talking to myself right now in the mirror. We'll work together on making you into that person that I want you to be, and to enjoy life in healthy community. We just want to say, or you want
I
the
just want to
last
say
word?
one
Okay,
thing, and I
last
think
word.
we need to learn to be kind to ourselves if we want to be kind to other people.
Well, if God's telling us he's forgiven us and we're saying,
Yeah.
"Rah, rah, rah, forget you, God, I'm going to be hard on myself and you're
Yeah.
loving, my burden is light." Thank you for being here with us today. Hopefully this 1 Thessalonians chapter 3 text help you, and may God bless your life on your life journey. So take care, everybody.